First of all, the difference between management and leadership, they're not the same thing. And we're action property management. So management is a good thing. It's what our service is, but it's different than leadership. Management is direction. Leadership is all about influence. And we make that distinction. You're directing people in management, but in leadership, you're influencing people. Influence has the same root in the word to the word influenza. So when you influence somebody, you are infecting them. And that's what influence is.
Good or bad, right?
Right. Good or bad. And so influence is not, Adolf Hitler was a phenomenal influencer.
Right.
In a bad way. That was influenza, but we want people to influence in a good way. So we drive towards that. How do we help people to be a good influence? And
Hey guys, welcome back to the Next Level Living podcast. I'm your host, Summer Blazer, with my co-host, Corey Neubauer. We have a special guest today, Matthew Holbrook, CEO of Action Property Management. We're so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Yes. We've been talking about having you on, and we're so happy that you were able to join us today.
Work through some scheduling, but we made it happen.
Yes, you're here.
Well, you're a fellow podcaster, so I think we've just recently started this, so you're blazing some trails that we're following. So,
well, I don't know about blazing the trail, but we're figuring it out, and you guys are doing a great job with this.
Yes, I know yours kind of focuses on education, which we love. Our last guest, Steve Tinley, is all about education as well. So I think that's what a big part of our mission is, to educate. And love to hear a little bit more about, we've talked before of kind of your philosophy and just the values of action. And what you guys bring to the table. Is really kind of intriguing to me.
Yeah, sure. It's the DNA of any organization. You have values, whether you realize it or not. And so you can either let them kind of develop organically and go wherever they go, or you try to shape that. And so we've been very intentional to try to shape the values and to cultivate that within our organization for a long time. And it's a really important part of who we are and even how we've been successful.
And you guys have been growing like exponentially, right?
I think that we are, somebody could probably, fact check me on this, but we might
have done some chat GPT and have some numbers, but in the thousands, right? Yeah, of employees.
One of the things that's different for us, I think, is we're growing cross-regionally, but all organically. So we haven't done any acquisitions, and we've grown in multiple different markets, and we've done it all organically. And I'm not aware of anybody else in the country that's done it to the extent that we have on a purely organic basis.
And that's difficult. So that's harder work.
It is. And part of the reason, coming back to what you were asking about before from a values standpoint, we've just seen that as such a critical part of our success and who we are, that when you do acquisitions, it's very, very difficult to incorporate that consistency of values.
Well, because you're picking up those assets right from the acquisition, and now you have to kind of deal with what's there.
Yeah. So, so we're committed to that from an organic growth standpoint, but we've kind of been able to figure out how to move from one region to another.
I love that. Good. Can you tell us a little about your culture? What I've seen, I really enjoy and admire, but I would love to hear from a leadership. Yeah,
absolutely. So first of all, I think taking a step back, and I think this is what we talked about a little bit, Corey, that, if you look at where we are in our country today, in the culture at large, the nice way to put it is that there's been a significant decrease in civility.
That's a nice way to say it.
A more blunt way to put it is people just seem to be meaner these days. And I think most people acknowledge that. And that's really a phenomenon that I think has accelerated post-COVID.
Agreed.
And we talk about that a lot. And so you look at a scenario of you have a world where people are less civil. And you have an industry, which is our industry, that has long had a reputation that everyone hates their HOA. And you put those two things together, and it's just a recipe for things going really, really badly. And so, I own a management company. I have to admit in social settings that I do work that relates to HOAs. And the reaction I get, and I'm sure it's not any different from you, is you do what with HOAs?
Yeah.
I hate my HOA.
Hate my HOA.
Or it's, I would never live in an HOA.
Yeah.
And, I kind of, I've gotten to the point where I'm tired of that.
Yeah.
And so what does it take to change that?
Yeah.
And so coming back to, you're asking the question about the culture and the values, to overcome those obstacles, to overcome the obstacle of a decrease in civility and already a very embedded perspective that people hate their HOAs, you have to have a certain kind of human being with a certain kind of DNA to be able to overcome that and to find ways to redefine what an HOA can be and to flip that script.
Yeah.
And so I know it's kind of an introduction to what you were asking about, but that's part of the reason why that's so important. And so we look at things from a standpoint of, first, there's character questions, and then there are values, and we distinguish between the two. So you will not see, for example, integrity is not an action value. Kindness is not an action value. Telling the truth is not an action value. And the reason for that is all of those are what I would call our human values. Those are character issues. I expect all humans
to be that, right?
To have integrity, to tell the truth, to be kind. An action value could be that you could be a good person or maybe not so good of a person and either agree with or not agree with our values. They're distinctly action. It doesn't define whether you're
a good person or not. Right.
And so we go through a lot, and I'd be glad to address these, but we have very specific interview questions that we use. And we have questions about your answer that you might give to us in an interview that we really dissect in a lot of different ways that help us to assess somebody's character and to assess their values. And then another significant thing that we do is we have a program that we call Lead Well, and it's a leadership development program. It's based on an MBA level type of a leadership course, but it's been anchored in and tied very deeply into how do we lead from a character and values place, and then let that expand to where we use influence to help to promote those values.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, the biggest challenge for any manager, right, is that interpersonal skills, managing that board, how do you be effective? So I'd love to hear that you guys are doing more of that to make your employees more effective and empower them. It sounds like, right?
Yeah. Maybe just not to get too to nerd out on this.
Please
too much.
do. No. No offense. This was what we had a conversation before, and this was what I would hope that we would talk through this stuff, because I found it so intriguing that you need to really dig deep into this to really, how are we going to change this industry?
Yeah. So I'll give you like a little preview on some of the material we cover in our Lead Well program that goes to this. But first of all, the difference between management and leadership, they're not the same thing. And we're action property management. So management is a good thing. It's what our service is, but it's different than leadership. Management is direction. Leadership is all about influence. And we make that distinction. You're directing people in management, but in leadership, you're influencing people. Influence has the same root in the word to the word influenza. So when you influence somebody, you are infecting them. And that's what influence is.
Good or bad, right?
Right. Good or bad. And so influence is not, Adolf Hitler was a phenomenal influencer.
Right.
In a bad way. That was influenza, but we want people to influence in a good way. So we drive towards that. How do we help people to be a good influence? And one of the primary factors of that is related to, and this is kind of all the rage in a lot of ways today, but the idea of emotional intelligence, or EQ. And there's lots of interesting studies that show how somebody with a really high IQ, but a medium or low EQ will not perform as well as somebody with an average IQ, but a high EQ. Mm-hmm. EQ determines your ultimate ability to be successful much more than IQ.
Right.
And it's because EQ drives towards this idea of influence. And so we dive into the different boxes related to emotional intelligence. And so the gateway into, not the whole thing, but the gateway into emotional intelligence has to do with self-awareness. And so we'll go into something on, it's interesting. You can look at a lot of these different studies on this concept called illusory superiority. So feel free to drop that into into your dinner conversation. But illusory superiority, all that is that most people overestimate their own abilities compared to other people. Almost everybody does. So you ask the average American, are you in the top 50% of the best drivers in America? And 92% of Americans will say that yes. Yep. But obviously like 42% of them at least are wrong. And there's study after study like this that people overestimate their abilities. So if you want to be a good leader, you have to have a high IQ, you have to be able, EQ, and you have to be able to influence other people. And it starts with, you better have an accurate view of yourself. Oh, right. So what are you doing to make sure that you see yourself as accurately as possible? And then we get into, what do you do to make it so that people feel comfortable giving you honest feedback? Not just are you receptive to honest feedback, but how are you opening the door to let other people, like you're encouraging that, you're making it easy for people to give you that free consulting so that you can know yourself better and you can have that mirror all the time. And so that opens the door to going through the other phases of emotional intelligence and developing. And so those are the kinds of things that we get into at Action.
I nerd out on stuff like this. Yeah. I mean, emotional intelligence is, how you perceive yourself and the world and how you respond to things. I mean, it's kind of all a part of.
Well, emotional intelligence is all about self-awareness and self-management, then social awareness, and then your ability to interact socially. Those are the 4 boxes. And it all starts with being able to, you have to have a correct view of yourself. It's why my wife got fired from being a team mom.
Sorry, wifey.
Yeah, well, she would be the first to tell you. She was team mom for everything.
She could do it right, but
Well, no. Here's what happened is we had a.
I love this.
One of our kids was on a team that they finished middle of the pack in the season, and the coach tells team mom, my wife, okay, go get all the kids these big trophies. And she says, but they didn't win.
Right.
And the coach says, yeah, but we're going to get them all trophies. And she says, no, I'm not doing that. They didn't deserve to get a trophy.
Right.
And he says, okay, you're not the team mom. Somebody else can go get the trophies. And, but the reality is it's interesting. That's kind of a funny story, but how much, and so you didn't know, this is my parenting soapbox here.
I love it. No.
But how much do we as parents actually damage our kids when our primary objective as parents is to build up our kids' self-esteem and to tell them you can do anything you want to do, you can be anything you want to be, and all the while we are tearing down their accurate self-understanding, which is tearing down their emotional intelligence, and we're actually handicapping the kids from being able to be as successful as they can be in the long run. Now, there's a balance there. You don't go tell your kid they can't do anything, but you want to give them like real feedback. Yeah. I can do all the workouts that I want to do, but I'm never going to slam dunk like Michael Jordan did. Yeah. And if my parents told me that I could all along, then I'd be chasing that for forever. And so anyway, I think that whole cultivating, whether it be as parents or as leaders, we want to have an accurate self-understanding. And so we make it a really important emphasis at Action. How do we push people towards all of the components related to? And that would just be one segment that we do of this overall. It's a 6-month leadership program that we put people through. And there's homework every week. There's online interaction. And all of this is coming back to how can you be a good infection to other people in how you lead.
Love that.
So
that's pretty heavy. I like that.
I love
it. It
that
is,
so
but
much.
you go all the way back to the whole concept of decreasing civility. Everybody hates HOAs. And if you're going to flip that script, you have to have a certain kind of people to do that. And that's where we put our emphasis.
I like that. Yeah, we're continuously talking about how can we elevate the space, how can we change perceptions of what it is and how it's serviced, and the positives versus the negatives.
Summer's our sunshine for sure.
Like HOA
she always takes space. Which I like. You take the other approach, right? If you can take it out of, hey, how is this affecting me? To what is this other person thinking?
Yeah,
and why are they acting that way towards me? And then to that, you talk about that self-awareness or trying to understand the other person first.
Yeah, absolutely.
So But no, it's we talk about the human side, but then there's also a lot of technology. I think we've talked about technology. I love talking about technology and how we can provide more, right? Because it is the perception is, hey, I don't get the information fast enough. I don't do this. I'm lacking this stuff. So how do we, how does the industry bridge that gap to be a little more effective on communicating that stuff to maybe make it so I dislike my HOA instead of I hate my HOA. But I think we talked about a few things. What's action? What are you guys doing in the sense of kind of if it's AI, if it's technology, if it's making your team less stressful to deal with some of these repeatable tasks?
Yeah. First of all, I do think it's possible that people can, by and large, like their HOA.
Yeah.
We are not there yet as an industry.
No, but as a visionary, it's important to have that vision to know that it is possible. Right? Yeah,
I think it's very hard to think in those terms, but it is possible. Like we and there has to be a recognition, I believe, that the way that we have done things. I've been in this business for 29 years, and it goes well before me. But the way that we've done things for all these years is not doing
Isn't working. Yeah.
And it's not going to get better if we just incrementally make it a little bit better at a time.
If you just pedal harder, it's not going to be better. No. Yeah.
And so we kind of have to dump it all out.
Paradigm shift, right?
And I believe that the industry is poised to do that. And it's going to come to a place where I think different companies, different individuals are going to be trying different things, and
it's going to resonate, right?
There's really going to be a race to see who can figure out what that new paradigm is going to be and get it to take hold. And so you ask about the technology. The technology is so important from the perspective of how does it unleash the humans. Mm-hmm. I believe, and this would be part of my paradigm, and I might be wrong, and somebody else could tackle this in a different way. But right now, I believe that the human element needs to be drawn out, but it has to be in the right ways. So you use the technology to identify what part needs to be human and what part can we address with whether it be a technology process or any other kind of a process, and make sure that we are unleashing the humans in the right way. And so even what the definition of an HOA manager is, for example, I think that has to change.
Yeah.
And so you can, that manager, almost more than any other business, managers are very, we are manager centric in the industry. You're not even in a management company, either of you, but everything is about the manager, right? Your business revolves around managers. My business revolves around managers. Yeah. I think that there is a degree to which that's still true, but it has to change in who that manager is, what they do, what does that look like. And technology has to push.
Like, what do you foresee that looking like?
Yeah, that historically managers are very process oriented, very task oriented. For reference, I managed associations for like a dozen years, so I know what the job is, and it's not very different today than when I did it. But what happens if the manager's job becomes much more relational, much more people-oriented, and much less task-oriented? I think that it changes the job description of the manager. It changes even what the skill set required is of a successful manager. And so how can technology accomplish that to where people—
It frees them up, right?
People actually feel like they're getting more human connection, not less because of the technology. It's just the technology is addressing the right things.
Yeah. It takes care of the pain points, but then too, so they can be an influencer more often instead of just a order taker.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we see so many managers just overwhelmed with the tasks that they can never have time to be human. With their board because they're just drinking from the fire hose. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting time. How long do you think that this transformation is going to take?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that going to be on our lifetimes?
Yeah, it better be.
It better be, right?
No, I think things are moving very, very quickly.
I think they're moving rapidly as well.
I mean, we've seen some of the tools with AI just of those tasks, right? Comparing proposals, some of these other things that just a board would task a manager that they don't realize that's going to take them 2 hours to do this. Where if they had a tool that they could do that quickly, again, they get back to the human side. Here's the information. Here's what we think. This is how we attack this, or this is what what other clients have done, and then move to the next thing. So.
Yeah. What's going to be part of that transition is as AI becomes more elevated, people will become more in tune actually with what is AI and what isn't.
Yeah.
So, for example, you can put prompts into ChatGPT right now and get ChatGPT to produce amazing emails and essays and articles and whatever, and you can shortcut a lot of things. And there's a fear, I think, that a lot of people say, hey, ChatGPT or AI in general is going to
take my job,
take something away. Yeah. But I think what's going to happen, and we're here right now, where as AI becomes more prevalent, there will be a leveling up of the human side in that people will begin to recognize immediately what is AI and what isn't, because we'll become more tuned to it. So for example, do you happen to know like what the biggest kind of signs are in an AI written document, how to recognize if it's AI?
There's some of the some of the
There's way too many adjectives, and there's a long dash.
Yeah, it's called an M dash.
Yeah,
that long AI dash is telltale sign.
So the two primary signs is the M dash, and there's more than this, but the two biggest is the M dash, and it's the phrasing of sentences. It's not this, but this.
Yep.
And AI will do that. It will say, well, it's not about just having a good podcast, but it's about having a podcast that really connects with people.
Right.
And it'll use that sentence structure over and over and over again. Yeah. Well, we're all familiar with that in how AI is generating content. And people will become more and more in tune with that and start recognizing it. And then the AI will grow and those types of things will get smoothed out. But there is going to be this kind of back and forth leveling up between the humans and the AI. And again, what it means is that people, I think, are going to come to where they really value the genuine human element. And they don't want to be fooled by the AI, but they won't mind the AI components if it's just helping them solve rudimentary types of tasks.
Yeah, and I think it is. We were reading something else or watching something else, and it was like it's all going to come down to your personal brand, which I think is right along that the influence, who you are, what unique point of view that you have, that what value can you put on these series of facts. Because everything's going to be done perfectly, right? Like all the requests, everything is just it's kind of like Amazon now. You don't worry about an Amazon package because you're going to get a notification when it's ordered, when it's on its way, when it's 3 doors down. So if all that's taken care of, to your point, what's left? Yeah. It's that human connection, it's that influence, and people are going to have to up that game to continue to be successful.
Yeah. And so what I would argue, like from an action standpoint, one of the things that we look at is how do we, I keep emphasizing this, but how do we have the right DNA in those humans so that they can provide something that technology or AI can't?
Yeah.
So an example, I think I might have shared this with you already, but one of our interview questions that we'll ask.
I like this one.
We'll ask, this is one of my favorite questions, but we'll ask somebody, tell me about a time that you made a mistake that hurt somebody else in some way and that you had to apologize for that mistake. What was the situation? What did you say to apologize? And then how did you follow up with that? And we find so much about a person's character and their values in that situation. The first thing is half of the time people don't know what an apology is. And so
you mean like literally the words "I'm sorry" are not stated?
If people will say, I went to the person and I said X, Y, and Z. But
sorry you feel this way kind of thing, right?
Well, not even if they said that would be at least half of an apology. But a lot of times they'll say, I did X, Y, and Z, and this person was hurt. And so I went to that person and I admitted that I did X, Y, and Z.
Gotcha.
And I might ask in the interview, did you apologize to them? Yeah, I admitted that I did this. And I would, I'll wrap up the interview pretty quickly at that point. Because if the word sorry or apologize is not in the words that they said to the other person, the interview is not going to go much further in our company.
Right.
And the reason is, to actually get those words out of your mouth to another human being is an incredible amount of vulnerability and requires an awful lot of humility. And behind all of that, to be able to do that, I would suggest takes an awful lot of strength of character. And those elements, humility, vulnerability, just strong character, can never be replicated by technology, can never be replicated by AI. And when you're in a crisis situation, which there will often be a crisis for people in their homes, in a homeowners association, I want somebody at that board meeting or somebody on the other end of that phone or on the other side of that Zoom who has that character, who has that humility, who has that vulnerability, because that explodes into so many other things that can help to address those types of issues. So that's the brand I want.
Yeah.
I want people that represent those kinds of things. And to identify that, to cultivate it, to attract people like that, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And it takes just an intense focus we've been doing that I would say we've been focused to that degree for a decade.
That's a substantial amount of time.
It's
impressive.
And my point being is that it doesn't just, inertia doesn't take you there.
Yeah. It's got to be intentional, right?
Yeah, hoping doesn't take you there.
Well, that's interesting. As you were telling that story, it kind of made me think, last week I did something, I double booked, I missed an appointment, right? And it's like, oh, hey, are you ready? And I'm like, you know what? I missed that. And I basically just admitted, hey, I missed this. I'm sorry. I double booked it. This is all on me. And the response I got back of like, we're all busy. The appreciation of just saying that you said sorry went so much further, where before you might say, oh, well, I'm going to be misconstrued as, unprepared or whatever. Showing that human side of saying, look, we don't all have this together all the time. Yeah. And being human with people is that's what, the AI is not going to give that human interaction, no matter how great it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It is, not to go too deep here, but,
but I love this conversation.
Well, it's so interesting, the concept of vulnerability, human to human.
Yeah.
You expose yourself in that way, and you think that you're making yourself vulnerable. Yeah. And you are, but most of the time you're elevating yourself with other people because they recognize that there's something genuine about you.
Yeah.
And people really, really want the real thing in other humans.
With that.
Yeah. And so, it's a hard thing to do, but if you do it, then it's actually in your own self-interest. I would almost argue it's a self-oriented thing to be genuinely vulnerable.
Well, it's kind of like volunteering, right? If you volunteer somewhere, you're giving your time, but you realize how much you get back from doing that.
Sure.
In the same fashion. So, I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast here, is right to show who we are, to have some vulnerability, to, as we say, stub our toe along the way.
Yeah.
But I think this is all part of elevating this whole industry as a whole, and just seeing that behind all this, and even for board member stuff, there's humans behind this, right? Yep. You're talking about the civility of things, right? Like, realize this is another human that you're screaming at, or that you're thing. I mean, there was somebody, what was that one email? It's like, I got called a peasant today, right? If you want to talk about being civil, right? It's like, we're a service provider or a service business, and being told that you're a peasant or not valued is challenging. Yeah. For sure. So,
Well, speaking of the human element, can we ask about your family?
Sure.
I would love to know about your family.
Yeah. You asked, what do I want to brag about the most?
Yes, I want it all. Well, first of all, we know your daughter works with you, right?
Yeah. So I've been married it'll be 29 years in December to the most amazing woman. And
you better say her name, or this isn't going to go well.
Yeah. Her name is Alice, and
hi, Alice.
We met my freshman year at UCLA.
Nice. Nice.
And the reason I bring that up is that it was quite the scandal at the time because she was a 5th-year senior and we started dating. And it actually ties into how I got into this business. So she graduated after that year and I still had more school, but we were in a hurry and wanting to get married. And my future father-in-law said that I had to be established in some way. And I didn't know what that meant. But I finished school in 3 years and then went to look for a job. And all I thought was, I just need to somehow show him that I'm established.
That's a good father-in-law right there. There
was an ad for a community manager trainee at Action Property Management. And very first job interview of my life for a real job. I went to Action Property Management. I was 21 years old.
So one job, the entire career?
I've been to one interview.
I am floored right now. Oh my goodness.
And it was all because I wanted to get married.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good motivation. That's a great motivation.
I just saw community manager trainee. All I saw was the word manager, and I could go to my future father-in-law and say, look, manager. Right. So that was my start. But yeah, we've been married for 29 years in December. And then we have 3 kids.
You're a busy man.
And they are all grown now. They graduated on the same day in the same ceremony from the same school.
Gosh.
A year ago in May.
And they're not triplets.
They are not. So my 2 older sons, Isaac and Seth, they played football at Chapman University, just here locally. And the oldest one got an extra year of eligibility because of COVID, and they both took a gap year.
Right.
Which, if you want to ask about that, I'd be interested to tell you about that. But they took a gap year, slowed them down a little bit. Oldest one got an extra year, and then our daughter was just in a hurry, and she didn't take a gap year. She finished in 3 years, and they all coalesced together.
Come on, that is cool.
Time. Yeah,
that is pretty cool.
That's a hefty bill. That's what I'm thinking.
It was a lot of fun having them all together.
I bet it was.
So we have one son getting married next month, and the 2 boys are heading off to law school in the fall, and our daughter helps with our marketing in they're at Action.
She's your podcast.
Yeah.
She does
That's
a
what I heard,
podcast.
right?
So yeah, they all are doing
What a
really
blessing.
well.
How cool is
What a
that?
blessing.
Yeah, we're very thankful.
That's awesome.
All right, you want to talk about the gap year?
Well, I didn't necessarily want to, but
I mean, COVID, right?
well, so my
your kids were at that age, right? That's very. I mean, 1 year is a lot in that high school time frame, right?
Yeah. So this definitely gets more into the personal side, but
Please.
my oldest graduated before COVID, and I was just thinking that as a father, this is kind of the end of my fathering,
Right.
and we turn him loose, and
the whole world's closed down.
Well, this is before that even happened.
Oh, okay.
I was just asking the question, have I said everything that I wanted to say?
Right.
Have I done everything as a father that I wanted to do?
Right.
And so I talked to him about it, and I said, what if you took a gap year? And he thought about it and ultimately agreed. And we structured a very specific gap year. I assigned, I think it was about 30 books that he was to read. And I also assigned other podcasts and websites with video lectures. And I said, we put together a schedule. We met every week.
So that's not a gap year. That's
cool.
Yeah.
We met every week for a year, and we would talk about the things that he had read and that he had watched on videos or listened to on podcasts. We had set material to go through in those conversations, and we spent a year very intentionally talking through those things. And I got to say everything that I would ever want to say. And we talked about so many things. And then on top of that, he volunteered. He was doing tutoring. He actually was involved in a program called Up and Running, training homeless people to run half marathons and instilling discipline there. He coached his high school football team. He coached his high school baseball team.
So talk about training a good human.
He was gotten super involved in like all these, church conferences and so he was, and he went to college the next year to rest.
Right.
But yeah, that was a really meaningful year. So then my next son came along, and we did the same thing. We did the same thing with him. Wow. My daughter was in a bit of a rush, and I don't know why. So she wanted to go straight to school, but she agreed she would still, on top of her schoolwork, do all the reading and all the assignments that I gave her, and then I would actually drive out to her school there at Chapman, and we'd have breakfast every Wednesday morning, and we'd cover all the same things.
Man, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. In all my 53 years, I've never heard a gap year sound like that.
Yeah, gap year
usually like I'm going to go do whatever
go to Europe
I want.
And do this and do that. Right.
For me, this was like
this is phenomenal.
Therapeutic for you too, right?
One last chance. Yeah. I'm going to say whatever it is that I want to say, and I don't want there to be any. And I had and have great relationships with all my kids, had great conversations, but life happens, and there are things you're like, did we really talk about this as much as I would have wanted to?
Yeah.
And so that was my way of just ensuring.
So when that happened, now what do you see the fruits? Not I don't want to say the fruits of the labor, but do you see kind of I would imagine a different trajectory, because you've given them all a little more wisdom or a little more perspective.
Yeah, I would hope so, but and this is dangerous because I'm sure they're probably all going to watch this.
Hi, kids.
But I think the biggest thing out of that was we worked out the muscles of being able to talk about literally anything.
Yeah.
And so by developing that, I think our ongoing ability to have conversation and to talk about things, even though now it's more as adults talking to each other. But I think as parents, oftentimes the biggest barrier to being able to have conversations with your kids that you really would like to have is it's just awkward.
Yeah.
Like you haven't worked out the muscles to talk about things that might be a little bit more difficult. And
not where the parent had all the time trying to correct or trying to influence behavior. It's like, what are your thoughts? And it is. Yeah, my kids are much younger, 10 and 7, but they're formulating their own thoughts, their own opinions, their own views. And how do you not mold that, but cultivate an open relationship?
Well, we have often said. So my wife and I, we did 25 years of high school youth and college ministry in our church. So we've been around young people for a long time, and feel like we got a little bit of an inside look into, this works, this doesn't work, and kind of putting that all together. And part of that was the first 12, 13 years of life. It's not hard to know what to do for your kids as far as being a good parent. It's just hard to do it. It's like physically demanding.
Yeah.
And then by the time they get to their teens, it starts shifting into, it's a lot less physically hard, but it's hard to know what to do.
Yeah.
But if you screw up those first 12 to 13 years, then you're toast, by the time you get to the teens. Yeah. So you really have to invest doing the hard things and do what you need to do. And then hopefully you've laid that foundation. You didn't know this was going to become like a parenting discussion.
No, this is a TED Talk right here, man. We're going to have another, And I'm intrigued because I'm always, just with everything, if someone's further along in the journey, what have they learned?
Yeah.
That I don't necessarily have to stub my toe on, but I'm going to have to grab that syllabus of that gap year, because that sounds absolutely amazing. Because you always hear gap year, and it's like, oh, we went to Europe, we did this, like. You have that final bow that you're putting on the child-parent relationship to say, this is what I'd want to impart, the wisdom I'd want to impart.
And people ask me, and I'm always happy to share that list. But it's also very personal, because these are books that represent the things that are important to me, that I want my kids to know and to wrestle with. And these are the books that I want to bubble up certain topics in certain ways to make sure that we have that on-ramp to have those conversations.
Well, you're obviously bringing that human element to action as well. So, you're cultivating a family and with good values and good, making good people.
Yeah. And not to go sideways on you, but I actually push back on the term family.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
It's difficult to have a business where you say that we're a family, because what happens when something happens and it's time to tell somebody they need to move on?
Right. You don't fire your family.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really does create some cognitive dissonance with what's going on. I thought we were a family.
Yeah.
And so you will find the language that we use is very much about team.
Yeah.
Because you can have a championship team and then somebody moves on and they go to another team, they do something else, but you can still say, we really, really valued the contribution that person made to the team while they were on our team. It's been interesting, I'm a Dodger fan, and the Dodgers won the World Series last year, but they had a few players that moved on to other teams.
Yeah.
And you see that when those teams come and they visit at Dodger Stadium to come play the Dodgers, they do the ring ceremony for that player who's now on another team. Yeah. And the Dodger players all gather around. You can see there's genuine affection, there's genuine caring, but there's a recognition that you contributed while you were part of our team, and now you're on to another team, and that can be good for everybody.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I not to give a lecture on that, but that's philosophically, we would look at it and say, we want to be a really good team, recognizing there might be seasons for certain people on the team, whereas with a family, there's not seasons. You're part of the family.
No, it's that philosophy, how or the methodology that you use, because it's obvious in every step that you guys take. It's very intentional. So,
yeah.
I like it.
I do too. I'm thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if that was probably a little more than you thought you were getting into, but we really truly appreciate you sharing that, because it's opened my eyes, and now I want all the parents of kiddos to listen to this podcast.
That's funny.
But it is. And this is a human business. So, right.
Yeah.
We need to show the human side of who we are. And it's great. So
we have to recognize that, that they're actual human beings on the opposite of us in any environment where we're having conversations with or interactions with other people. Mm. And one of the things, my wife and I have talked about this a lot in the last couple of years, just recognizing that almost everybody that you encounter has some baggage of something going on that they're dealing with in life. Either they've just come out of, or they're right in the middle of. Yeah. And most of us don't talk, and it's not always appropriate. We don't talk about these things openly. But it's very, very real. And like almost everybody you encounter has something like that going on in the backstory. And we lose sight of that human element. And so that's true of the team members who are part of Action. That's true of our board members. That's true of our homeowners. And do we always see other people actually as those humans with those backstories and all and that's all that we want to lean into is at Action is how do we fight the fight to be able to see people in that way.
Yeah. I know Summer mentions that, like, hey, if there's someone speeding, right, and they cut you off or whatever, like maybe they're trying to rush to their ailing mother or whatever. So right, it is. How do you change that perspective? Because everyone doesn't always come at 100%.
Yeah. It's one of our Action values. We say we're going to assume the best in other people. Yeah. That doesn't make you a bad person if you say, no, you need to earn my trust before I'm going to assume the best. Yeah. That's okay. But at Action, we say that's not how it's going to be. We're just going to automatically assume the best about you. Right. We're going to choose to lean into to do that. And so that would be like a distinctively Action value.
I love that.
I love that too. I feel like that's one of the philosophies I live my life by, where it helps you have a more optimistic perspective of life in general if you view other people with the best intentions, even if ultimately it turns out to be something different. Yeah. But
you calculate the cost that you're going to be taken advantage of, and you say, if you choose to go that route, you just say, I'm going to accept that cost in exchange for the value of living this out. I love that. Yeah. So, well, thank you for joining us. Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah. Appreciate you both very much. So glad that you're doing this, and glad to get to be a part of this. Oh, we so loved having you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here, guys. We will see you on the next episode of Next Level Living. Bye.